There are some things in this world that don't follow rules, things that don't appear on maps, blueprints, or records, and yet people keep encountering them. This is the story of an elevator that doesn't exist. It all began inside a luxury hotel, the kind where everything feels perfectly normal. Guests checked in and out, staff followed their routines, and security cameras quietly recorded every second of every hallway. But one night, at exactly 2:11 a.m., something unusual appeared on the footage. At the far end of a quiet corridor, an elevator door slowly opened. The only problem was, there was no elevator installed on that floor. In fact, there wasn't supposed to be one anywhere near that location in the entire building. At first, the hotel management dismissed it as a technical glitch, perhaps a reflection or a camera malfunction, but over the next few nights, the same thing kept happening. Different hallways, different times, but always the same doors, silently opening to nothing. That's when the situation became impossible to ignore, because when the footage was reviewed more closely, the staff noticed something far more disturbing. People were walking into it. Guests, employees, even people who had no reason to be in those hallways, approached the doors as if they belonged there. There was no hesitation, no confusion, no second thought. They simply stepped inside and disappeared. The security team began analyzing the recordings frame by frame, hoping to find a logical explanation. But what they discovered only made things worse. Inside the elevator, there were no visible walls, no lights, no reflections, just darkness. Not the kind caused by poor lighting, but something deeper, like an empty space where reality itself simply stopped existing. Hotel records showed that every person who entered that elevator was still officially checked in. No one had checked out. It was as if they had vanished without ever being gone. And then, 3 days later, one of them came back. A man in his late 30s walked calmly into the hotel lobby as if nothing had happened. There was no panic in his eyes, no sign of distress, just an unsettling quietness. The receptionist recognized him immediately. He had been reported missing. Security quickly surrounded him, asking questions all at once. Where had he been? What had happened? What was inside that elevator? But the man didn't react the way anyone expected. He simply stared ahead. After a long silence, his lips finally moved. "I took the elevator," he said. When he asked him which elevator, his response sent a chill through the room. "The one that doesn't stop." At first, it sounded like confusion or trauma, but then he smiled, and his smile didn't feel natural. He was taken in for medical evaluation. Doctors ran every test they could think of. Brain scans, neurological exams, psychological assessments. Everything came back normal, and yet something was clearly wrong. For one, his eyes were uncomfortable, as if he were constantly watching something no one else could see. When investigators showed him the CCTV footage of himself entering the elevator, they asked him to describe what happened inside. For a long time, he remained silent. Then, in a low voice, he said, "It didn't go up, and it didn't go down. It went somewhere else." The room fell silent. When they asked him to explain, his answer made even less sense. He described doors opening onto places that shouldn't exist, spaces that defied logic, rooms that were far larger on the inside than they could ever be on the outside, hallways that twisted in ways that felt wrong. And then there were the figures. Not quite human, not quite anything recognizable, just watching. The investigators assumed it was a hallucination, a result of stress or shock, until he said, "One of them followed me back." The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. They asked him what he meant. Instead of answering, he slowly turned his head toward the mirror behind them. And that's when they saw it. His reflection moved, just a fraction of a second too late. It was subtle, almost impossible to notice at first. But when they replayed the footage, frame by frame, the delay became undeniable. When the man raised his hand, the reflection hesitated, then copied him. That was the moment everything spiraled out of control. He was immediately placed in isolation. No mirrors, no reflective surfaces, constant surveillance, but even that didn't help. The cameras inside his room began to malfunction. Something stood behind him, tall, distorted, unnatural, watching. One night at exactly 2:11 a.m., the camera feed cut out completely. When it finally came back, the room was empty, the man was gone, no signs of escape, no forced entry. No explanation. The only thing left behind was a message scratched into the wall. It found the exit. After that incident, the elevator stopped appearing. No more sightings, no more disappearances. For a while, it seemed like whatever had happened was over. But months later, new reports began to surface. Different cities, different buildings, the same description. An elevator with no clear destination. And once again, people started entering it. But the most unsettling part isn't what happens inside. It's what people feel before they step in, because every single person who encounters it describes the same sensation. Not fear, not confusion, but something far more disturbing. Familiarity. As if they've seen it before, as if they've been there before. And maybe that's the truth. Maybe the elevator isn't taking people somewhere new. Maybe it's taking them back to a place they were never meant to leave.